Hello everyone, welcome back to our channel NEET Atomics, and this is Vamsi. So in today's video we'll be discussing about locomotion and movements. What do you understand by the term locomotion? What do you understand by the term movement? Let me say you. Locomotion is an integrated term. Okay, it is an integrated term which includes movements. But the thing is, in locomotion, in physics, you learn in kinematics about displacement. Yeah, what is displacement? It is a moving up of a body from one place to the other. That is the literal meaning of displacement. So locomotion includes the movements which include the displacement of the body. Okay, which include the displacement of the body from one place to the other. So locomotion is a type of movement which includes displacement of a body from one place to the other. Now what is a movement? Movement is nothing but it is a change in position of an organ, you can say. Okay, it is a change in position of an organ, but not whole body. But not whole body. You move your limb upwards. Move your limb upwards. It is a movement. Move your limb downwards. It is a movement. Move your head sideways. It is a movement. So this includes locomotion, and this includes movements. Okay. Now, what are the structures of our human body which help in this locomotion and movement? We have something called a skeletal system. We have something called a skeletal system, and we also have muscular system. We have different types of systems, but these two are the main important systems which help in locomotion and also movements. Okay, we have skeletal system and also muscular system. In these two facilitate this movements and locomotion of our body. First we'll be seeing about the skeletal system, then we'll be moving about the knowing about the muscular system, how this muscular system facilitates these movements in our body, how it is responsible for the creation of movements in our body. Now first let us talk about the skeletal system. Skeletal system, as you all know, it is divided into two types basically. Okay, you will be learning in detail in your MBBS first year, but here just it is divided into axial and appendicular. Okay, these are the two types of skeletal systems. Usually we divide these, any system we divide in order to make our study very easy. Like if you take your, let us just slightly move on to the politics. If you take these governments, they divide and rule. That is the policy actually that makes administration easy. In the similar way, we classify things in order to understand the subject very easy. If you list out the general features of bones or anything, and then if you classify, you'll be able to remember it, you will be able to study it properly. That is why we have various classificationary systems also in a botany. We have various classificationary systems, we have divided into multiple kingdoms. Okay, so that is why. Now coming back to our topic, axial and appendicular. What do you mean by axial? Axial means which is present on the axis. Which axis? It is a mid axis. So your body, think for suppose this is your body, or let us say he is our friend. Okay, Raju, for today's topic he is only our friend. Okay, Raju is our friend for today's topic. So now, so let us take another friend also, Venkat. These are our two friends for today's video. This fellow will be explaining us the appendicular skeleton, and this fellow will be explaining us the axial skeleton. So this is your mid axis of your body. Okay, that is your mid axis where your all the movements originate from usually. Okay, this is your mid axis of your body. Now this skeletal system which is present all over your mid axial point, mid axial line, is called as your axial skeleton. Okay, if you take Raju, these are your skeletal, this is your mid, this is his mid axial line, am I right? So the structures which are involved in this, here you get your sternum. Okay, here you get your sternum. After that, if you take, you get your cranium. Yeah, cranium means, sorry for that little disturbance. So you get your sternum here, and this is your cranium which includes skull, and posterior to this sternum you have your vertebral column VC. Okay, these all include under your axial skeleton. So Raju's skull, vertebral column and sternum are included under your axial skeleton. Okay, now coming into appendicular skeleton. Who is the one who is explaining us appendicular skeleton? He is your Venkat. So this Venkat, if you take, this is your appendage. What are the appendages first of all? In order to tell you, appendages means they are the extremities or they are additional things. Okay, appendages are nothing but additional things which are present. What are the additional things that are present here? Other than the axial things, your limbs. Okay, your limbs. So limbs come under appendicular skeleton. Okay, let us say thanks to these guys who have explained us appendicular skeleton and axial skeleton. Now move on to the diagram here. Okay, this fellow, you will be going into your, you will be coming into your MBBS for only this fellow. Okay, see, this is your cranium bone. Okay, this is your cranium bone, not this whole bone, but this is your cranium, and this is your facial bones. Okay, if I draw a line like this part becomes your cranium and this part becomes your facial bones. These two bones form skull. What is a cranium? It is nothing but a bony box which covers the brain. Okay, that is your cranium. Cranium and facial bones together form skull. Now, this posterior thing, a long thing which is running behind your body, is called as your vertebral column. We have classified vertebrae also based on their location into various types, like cervical. Anywhere you come across the word cervical, it means neck. Okay, remember, anywhere if you come across the word cervical, it means neck only. Okay, cervical vertebra, they are 7 in number and they are numbered as follows: C1, C2, C3, C4, C5, C6, C7. Okay, now thoracic. Okay, anywhere you come across the word thoracic, it means your thorax. Okay, what includes under thorax? These are the structures which are included under thorax. Trunk is your this body part. Trunk is your body part. Trunk is divided into thorax and abdomen. Abdomen is a place where you find your stomach, liver, all those come under abdomen. But the place where you find your lungs and heart is mainly called as thorax. And where this thoracic means thorax. So the vertebra which are present in the thorax region are called as thoracic vertebra. These are your thoracic vertebra. They are 12 in number. They are named as follows: T1, T2, 3, 3, 4, like so on. Now, coming into lumbar. Lumbar vertebra are 5 in number and they are present in the lumbar region. Lumbar region is your hip region. Okay, lumbar means your hip region. They are 5 in number. Okay, now coming into sacrum. Sacrum is actually, it is named as 1, but it is a fused bone of 5. It is fused bone of 5 bones fused to form one sacrum. 5 bones fused to form. See here you can see only one sacrum, but those are 5 vertebra, different vertebra which are fused to form one bone. Next, coming into coccyx. This coccyx is also called as your tailbone. Okay, tailbone. This is also 1 in number, but 4 different bones fused to form one bone. Clear? Am I clear? No. That is your regarding vertebra. This is your sternum. Okay, this is your sternum. And these are your ribs. Ribs are also included under your what skeleton? Axial skeleton. They are present in the axial line, so they are also included under axial skeleton. How many pairs of ribs we have? We have 12 pairs. Remember this word, pairs. Okay, 12 pairs of ribs and 24 number of ribs. Okay, either remember in pairs or number, don't confuse between both. Okay, now we divided ribs into true, false, floating. Okay, true, false and floating. True ribs are also called as, see, learn this, vertebrosternal. False ribs are also called as vertebrocostal. and floating ribs are only called as vertebral. Now, in order to explain this, let me tell you the attachments of the ribs. Ribs are attached anteriorly to the sternum, posteriorly to the vertebral column. Anteriorly to the sternum, they are attached by the costal cartilages. These are your costal cartilages. Fine. Those are your costal cartilages. Anteriorly, they are attached to the sternum. Posteriorly, they are attached to the vertebral column. Now, coming to this. True ribs are also called as vertebrosternal ribs. Why are they called as vertebrosternal ribs? They are attached posterior to the vertebral column and anteriorly to the sternum. They fulfill the attachment of the ribs. So those are 7 in number. 1 to 7 ribs are 2 ribs. 8, 9, 10 are false ribs. Why? Because these false ribs are also called as vertebrocostal ribs. These ribs posteriorly they attach it to the they are attached to the vertebral column. They fulfill that one. But while coming into anteriorly, these are attached to the sea. This is your first, second, third, fourth, fifth, sixth, seventh, eighth, ninth, 10th. This is your 11th and this is 12th. See these 3 ribs. See these 7 ribs. They attach directly to the sternum. Am I right or wrong? They attach directly to the sternum. But from here, they are attached to the 7th costal cartilage. Okay? In order, they don't directly articulate with the sternum. Sternum is still here only. But they articulate with the sternum through the attachment of the 7th costal cartilage. They get attached to the 7th costal cartilage. Okay, that is why they are called as vertebrocostal and these are called as false ribs. Now coming into floating ribs, 11th and 12th, we have 2. That is 11th and 12th are called as your floating ribs or only vertebral ribs. Why they are called as only vertebral ribs? Because they are not attached at all anteriorly. They keep floating in your viscera. Okay, they keep floating in your visceral mass. I hope I am clear with this ribs, vertebra. Yeah, fine. If I am clear with this, I am moving into your skull. Now, coming into cranium. Let me check whether we have an images of cranium or not. So now coming into your cranium and facial bones. As I told, cranium is your brain box. Okay, it is your brain box. What is cranium? Cranium is your brain box. Why is it named so? Because brain is enclosed in the cranium and this cranium forms as a surrounding box. If you take a cartoon box, you'll be getting like for example, you put some book or any cup or mug as an order. Now it will be in the center in the cardboard in the cartoon and totally like surrounding it you will be having your filling. If it is a fragile thing, you will be having lots of filling. In the same way, this cartoon box is your cranium, the mug is your brain, and surrounding stuff, all the protective stuff is your cerebrospinal fluid. Okay, now coming into cranium. Cranium is it is not an single bone. It is made up of different bones and it is united together using sutures. Okay, sutures are nothing but those are the joints, you can say fibrous joints. Okay, they are immovable but they are movable in your which state? They are movable in your embryonic in the fetal state, because in order for the baby to come out of the mother uterus, it has to be movable. First the head comes out, the head part comes out. If these bones are immovable, the head cannot come out of that uterus that freely. So through the bud canal it cannot come out. So they are movable in the fetal life. Now coming into the various bones of cranium. The first one is your frontal bone, the forehead bone of your, see, whatever I say, you touch your bone part, you touch your bony part, then you'll be remembering that. Okay, then you'll be remembering that. First is your frontal bone, that is your forehead part. Feel your forehead, that bone is your frontal. Now, so now from your forehead just move upwards. Okay, just move upwards, just that becomes your parietal bone. Okay, parietal bone, they are present just from your forehead, just move upwards. So parietal bone are 2 in number, for frontal bone is 1 in number. Okay, you have how many foreheads? I hope it is only one. But for our friends who just came to explain the axial skeleton and appendicular skeleton, they have 2 frontal bones, 2 foreheads. Okay. Now coming into parietal bones, there. So the parietal bones, there are 2 in number, 1 on each side. Next, temporal bone. Just go behind your ears. Once you touch behind your ears, there you will be finding temporal bones. These are also 2 in number. Next one, occipital bone. These are also 2 in number. Just go behind your head, near to the posterior part of your neck region. You will be finding occipital bone. Below that only you will be having occipital condyle, which articulates with the vertebral column. The skull articulation uh, is with the vertebral column, and the first vertebra is called as atlas and the second vertebra is called as axis. Remember these two names of vertebra. This forms your neck joint, which is your pivot joint. Next, coming into hyoid. This hyoid bone is a U-shaped bone which is present at the base of your buccal cavity. Now coming into your facial bones. These facial bones are sphenoid, which is present above, a little above the temporal bone. Next one, ethmoid, which is present in your eye orbit. Next one, lacrimal bone. This lacrimal bone is present below your eyes, near the orbits, and you'll be having a lacrimal gland there situated, which is responsible for tears. Okay. Next one, nasal bone. We have your nasal conchae and nasal septum. Nasal conchae are present in the inner part, and septum is present dividing the two nostrils or nasal chamber. Okay. Next one, we have zygomatic bone. These are your cheekbones. Next one, you have the maxilla. This maxilla is fixed. This is also called as your upper jaw, but mandible is freely movable. This is your lower jaw. Okay, mandible is freely movable and maxilla is fixed. So these form your axial skeleton, this forms your skull. Now moving on to appendicular skeleton. Now let us move on to the appendicular skeleton. We have completed with the axial skeleton. Actually, in the axial skeleton, we have pectoral girdle and pelvic girdle. I'll be discussing it in a while after I discuss this appendicular skeleton. Now, this appendicular skeleton includes your limbs, as I said, your appendages. What are appendages? Those are your extra things which are present. Okay. This is your upper limb. These two are your upper limb. We have two upper limbs and two lower limbs. This is your upper limb. These are your lower limbs. Okay. Now, upper limb constitutes one humerus bone, which is your arm. See, the part which is extended from your shoulder joint to elbow joint is called as arm. Below that, from elbow joint to wrist joint is called as your forearm, and from wrist joint to the terminal phalanx it is called as your hand. Okay, learn these differentiating points because they help you a lot in your first year MBBS. Okay, now arm consists of only one bone, that is your humerus bone. Next one, forearm consists of two bones, that is your ulna and radius bone. Radius is present laterally, ulna is present medially. And we have the hand. This hand consists of 8 carpal bones, 5 metacarpal. These are your 8 carpal bones. These form your wrist joint. Okay, wrist joint. Next, we have 5 metacarpal bones, and we have phalanges. Okay, we have 14 phalanges in total. 14 phalanges, 1 2 3 4 5 6 7 8 9 10 11 12 13 and 14. We have 14 phalanges per hand, and per two hands we have how many? 28 phalanges, and for two legs we have another 28 phalanges, and total we have 56 phalanges. Okay, 56 phalanges in total body. Now these phalanges are divided into proximal, middle and distal. The what to say, the formula of phalanges is 2 3 3 3. Why only two? In the thumb finger you have only two phalanges. Okay, see how many lines or how many times you can fold your thumb, how many times you can fold your finger involves those many phalanges. Like they are the joint. This is one joint which includes one bone, the other bone. Okay, two bones. Like that, you are able to fold two times. One here, one here, one here, and one here. So it includes three bones, three phalanges. Only in the thumb you have two phalanges. Remaining all the four fingers you will be having three phalanges each. Okay, that is your upper limb. Now coming into lower limb. Lower limb consists of femur, which is homologous to that of the humerus in the upper limb. Next one, it consists of patella. Actually, here we have how many carpals? We have 8 carpals, but here we only have 7 tarsals. These 7 tarsals, the one which is remaining, we have 30 bones in each limb. The one which is remaining is compensated by this patella. This femur, patella, and this medially, which is present a big bone in your leg. Same here also. This is your thigh region. From hip joint to knee joint is called as your thigh region, the in which femur is located, and from knee joint to the ankle joint it is called as leg region, in which your tibia and fibula are present. Tibia is present medially and fibula is present laterally. Fibula is so much thinner when compared to tibia. After that, from ankle joint to your terminal phalanx, it is called as your foot region. Okay, these are your regions. And in the thigh region you only have one bone. In the leg region you have two bones, tibia and fibula. Tibia is present medially and fibula is present laterally. And in the ankle joint, from ankle joint here till the terminal phalanx you called as foot. And this foot consists of this ankle joint, which is made up of 7 tarsal bones. Okay, 7 tarsal bones and 5 okay, these 7 tarsal bones make up the ankle joint. And after that we have 5 metatarsals. Okay, we have again 2 3 3 3. Okay, the big toe has only 2 phalanges, remaining all have 3 each. Okay, 14 phalanges. Here also proximal, middle, and distal. Proximal is nothing but which is present to your midline, which is present nearer to your midline, and distal is nothing but which is present away from your midline. Okay, that is your limb or appendicular skeleton. Now coming into your girdles. We actually have two girdles. One is pelvic girdle and another one is pectoral girdle. What these two girdles do? Girdles articulate your appendicular skeleton towards your axial skeleton. Like taking the pectoral girdle, it articulates your upper limbs to your this thoracic region, to your axial skeleton, this thoracic region. Now this pectoral girdle consists of it consists of scapula, which is present in the posterior thing. Okay, scapula, and this clavicle. Clavicle is also called as your collarbone. It is a horizontal bone which is present in your human body. Okay, it is only one horizontal long bone which is present in the human body. Pectoral girdle consists of sternum, scapula, and the what you call this clavicle. Okay, now the scapula, if you see the structure of scapula, you have a glenoid cavity here in which the head of humerus articulates. This is your what do you call acromion process. A minute, let me get the first year MBBS book so that I'll be teaching you scapula very easily. So don't get tensed looking at all these names. We don't require it. I just got this book in order to explain your scapula. Look at my pencil. So this bone is your scapula bone. Okay, this is your anterior view of your scapula. Okay, now this scapula has an anterior surface and a posterior surface. Anterior surface is where your ribs are found usually, and this is a large triangular bone which extends from your second rib to seventh rib. Okay, it is present in the true ribs region only. So guys, sorry for that huge disturbance which is caused. Okay, now the scapula is extended from second to seventh rib. Uh, this scapula is having a glenoid fossa. This is your glenoid fossa of your scapula, in which the head of the humerus gets articulated. Now, you have a small process of the scapula which is called as coracoid process. Okay, coracoid process. This coracoid process helps in the when your arm is extended fully over your head, like remember the bowling action. Okay, remember the bowling action. In bowling, what is happening? The hand is taken above the head. In that cases, the dislocation of the joint may occur. That is prevented by this coracoid process anteriorly and this acromion process posteriorly. Now let us move on to the posterior view of this scapula. This is your posterior view of the scapula. We have this one, spine of scapula, which terminates as acromion process here. Okay, acromion process here, and this is your crest of the spine of the scapula. Okay, this is your crest of the spine of the scapula, and this is your acromion process, that is your coracoid process. And this acromion process anteriorly it forms a joint with the clavicle, which is called as claviculoacromial joint or acromioclavicular joint. Okay, that is your. Okay guys, that is about your pectoral girdle. Now coming into the pelvic girdle. So guys, look here. What did pectoral girdle do? It articulated the upper limb to your thoracic region. Now what does this pelvic girdle does is it articulates your lower limb to the pelvic bone or hip bone or the pelvic region. Okay, that is the function of this pelvic girdle. This is actually your hip bone. In the hip bone, we have this following structure which is called as acetabulum. This is like a fossa. These all are written in your NCRT guys, but they are not. The diagrams are not mentioned there, due to which you get confused frequently. So I'm explaining you using this first year MBBS book. Okay, don't get tensed over here. This is called as your acetabular fossa or acetabulum, in which the head of femur attaches and forms this joint. Okay, forms the hip joint. Clear? That is your pectoral girdle and pelvic girdles. Now we have successfully completed with the skeletal system. What is the other system that I have told we are having? That is your muscular system. Now let us start with the muscular system. Now let us move on to your muscular system. As the skeletal system is completed, now let us moving on to the muscular system. As it is, the skeletal system is divided into two axial and appendicular skeletons. Our muscular system is also divided. Okay, we have three types of muscles in our body. What are those? Skeletal muscles. So we have three types of muscles in our body. Double SC. Okay, skeletal, smooth, and cardiac. These are the three types of muscles which are present in our body. In this particular lesson, we will be discussing about skeletal muscles only. Why is their name put as skeletal muscles? These muscles are attached to the skeletal system of the skeletal system, and they help in this locomotion and movement. Okay, this so-called locomotion and movement. They help in this movement, so that is why they are attached to the skeletal system. That is why they are called as skeletal muscles. In this particular chapter, we will be discussing only about skeletal muscles. Where are cardiac muscles present? Yes, they are present in the myocardium of heart. Where are smooth muscles present? They are present in the viscera. Okay, they are present in the viscera. Now coming into the structure of skeletal muscle, we'll be discussing very foremost. There is a small misconception here. Myocyte. Okay, myocyte and like you can say muscle fiber. Muscle fiber or myocyte both means one and the same. The muscle cell is called as myocyte or muscle fiber. Usually they get confused here. You don't please get confused. we will be discussing the structure of the muscle. Let me take this book once. So coming into the structure of a skeletal muscle, this whole muscle actually has many bundles in it. Okay, whole muscle, when you cut through the cross section of it, you find many bundles. These bundles are nothing but your myofibers. Okay, muscle fibers or myofibers. Myo is the term which is used for muscle. Myocytes or muscle fibers, those are the bundles of muscle fibers which you found. And myofibrils are different. Don't get confused between myofiber, myofibril, and myocyte. Myocyte and myofiber are the same, but myofibrils are different. I'll be discussing about it. Wait a minute. So this is your myocyte actually. Okay, this is your myocyte or muscle fiber. These muscle fibers together are wrapped into a tube-like structure called as fascicle. Okay, into a tube-like structure called as fascicle. Okay, this is your tube-like structure called as fascicle, and these are enclosed in that tube-like structure to form fascicle or muscle bundle. Many muscle bundles again together are held together by epimysium to form a complete muscle. Okay, epimysium to form a complete muscle. Am I clear? See now, let us discuss about these muscle fiber now. This muscle fiber is covered by sarcolemma. Okay, what is a muscle fiber? I already told you what is a muscle fiber. I told you it is a myocyte. It is a cell of a muscle. Okay, it is a cell of a muscle. Each cell is covered by a cell membrane. Here, the cell membrane of the muscle is called as sarcolemma. Okay, sarcolemma, and the cytoplasm of the muscle is called as sarcoplasm. Okay, and this sarcoplasmic reticulum is called a the endoplasmic reticulum is called as your sarcoplasmic reticulum. Okay, that is your muscle fiber. In this muscle fiber you have your myofibrils. Okay, you have your myofibrils. These myofibrils are arranged in a particular structure in order to bring the contraction of the muscle. Okay, am I clear with that? Now, there are a group of muscle fibers which are enclosed in a sheet called as pericymasium, which form a fascicle. This bundle is called as a fascicle, and many fasciculi together are enclosed in an epimysium, which forms your muscle. Okay, which forms your muscle. This sheath is called as your fascia. Okay, actually it is called as your fascia. It is a connective tissue. Okay, now collagenous connective tissue. Now coming into myofibrils or myofilaments. Myofibrils and myofilaments are one and the same. Myofibers and myocytes are one and the same. Now these myofibrils have dark and light striations on them. Okay, this striated appearance is due to the uniform distribution of your light and dark bands. Okay, striated muscle, light and dark bands uniform distribution causes your striation. These light bands are called as I bands, whereas or the isotropic bands, and the dark bands are called as your anisotropic bands or A bands. Okay, A bands. These A bands are prominently present in myosin, and the I bands are present in actins. Okay, both actin and myosin are proteins which form your myofibrils, which constitute your myofibrils. I band is your actin and A band is your myosin. Remember like that for now. Now we have your sarcoplasmic reticulum. Sarcolemma, which is your cell membrane. We have sarcoplasm. We have myofibrils, etc. How are these arranged actually? These are arranged into different bands. Okay, these are arranged into different bands. We have something known as sarcomere. What is the sarcomere? It is a contractile unit of a muscle. Okay, the sarcomere is a place which is present between two Z lines. We have two Z lines. We have two thick lines which are present. Between these two thick lines, you have the whole unit of a muscle, whole contraction unit of a muscle. Attached to these Z lines, you have actin filaments. These are your actin filaments attached to the Z line. This Z line is also called as Kushner's membrane. Just remember the word, not required. Okay, these are your actin filaments, and between two successive actins, you have your myosin filaments. Okay, between two successive actins, you have your myosin filament, and actins are found attached to the Z line. The whole length of the myosin is constituted by an A band. Whole length of the myosin, which includes a part of actin and whole myosin and a part of actin. Okay, the place where actins are not present or not found is called as here H zone. Whole length of the myosin is constituted by A band. Okay, and the place where actins are not present is called as your H zone. That is a little lighter when compared to these places, these areas. Okay, when compared to these areas, this H zone is a little lighter. Am I right? Am I clear? Now, coming into I band. This I band is a place from the end of one myosin to the end of to the starting of other successive myosin. Okay, simply you can say the length of actin filament. Half of the actin is present here on one side of the Z line, and other half is present on the other side of the Z line. That constituted here I band, and that is your light band. Okay, the line which divides this A band into two, the midline, is called as your M line. This whole thing is constituted your sarcomere, and that is your contraction unit. Whenever we have a filament, we have a theory called as sliding filament theory, which explains that these actin filaments are also called as thin filaments. They are constituent part of the I band. Myosin filaments are also called as your thick filaments, which are constituent part of anisotropic band. Why this is named as anisotropic and isotropic? Anisotropic in the sense, just understand it very simply, that you have both the combination of actin and myosin. That is why it is called as anisotropic. Isotropic, iso means similar, anisotropic, which means different. Remember like that. Coming into I band, which is your isotropic band, it only consists of what? Actins, not myosins. That is why it is isotropic in nature. It is similar in nature. Okay. Now we have something theory called as sliding filament theory, which we'll be discussing in the further in this session only of a few minutes while. That says this actin filaments actually slide over these myosin filaments, which pull the Z lines towards the M line, and which causes the contraction. When this pull occurs, the remaining also pull together, and which contracts the whole muscle. That is why this is called as a contraction unit. In order to understand this sliding filament theory, first we have to look at the structure of this filaments or proteins. Okay, these myosin and actins are your proteins, contractile proteins in the muscle which are present. Coming into the structure of actin, this actin is present in the form of filament. Okay, it is present in the form of filament. This filament is also called as F actin or filamentous actin. This is made up of globular actins. This is made up of by the union of globular actins. These balls which you see here are your G actin or globular actin. They unite together to form a filament or filamentous actin. And these are two in number, two stranded. They are wound to each other, and this forms your filamentous actin. On this actin, you have the presence of tropomyosin, a thread-like structure which is wound to this filamentous actin. And you have some molecules called as troponins. These troponins, you have three components: T and T and C, T and I. Okay, these have their own functions, which you will be learning in your future classes, but I'll be telling you a little about them. Okay, this is your tropomyosin, troponin, and actin, filamentous actin and globular actin. Now coming into the structure of myosin filament. Okay, myosin filament. What is the structure of myosin filament? Myosin filament is usually divided into two parts. Okay, one, it is your tail part and it is your cross arm, and this cross arm is again divided into two parts, head and this neck. Okay, you can call this region as neck. Okay, it is divided into two, head and neck constitute your cross arm, and the other part is your tail part is wound. Okay, it is made up of light myosin, light meromyosins. Meromyosin is a constituent part of the myosin. It is made up of light meromyosin, and the head is made up of heavy meromyosin. Have to remember this, head heavy. Okay, head heavy. This head part has two binding sites. One, it is your actin binding site and ATP binding site. Whenever these sites are covered by this tropomyosin whenever the muscle is in resting state. If it is in contraction, if it is going to contract, this tropomyosin is separated and this actin binding sites bind to the actin filament, ATP gets attached, and that follows your sliding filament theory. If you understand this structure of contractile potence, now let us move on to the sliding filament theory. So now coming into sliding filament theory. In order to understand this, you have to understand another concept also, which is called as your neuromuscular junction. Neuromuscular junction. Break this word. Neuromuscular and junction. Neuro means your nerve, okay, which innervates a particular muscle fiber, and junction is between those two. Okay. About this we'll be discussing more in the neural control and coordination chapter. Now coming into the sliding filament theory, whenever you have something called as your uh, like neurotransmitters which bring this action potentials, so-called action potentials or impulses, which are required for the contraction. Whenever this action potential is reached to the muscle, the first thing that happens is the calcium is released from the sarcoplasmic reticulum. Okay, you have a huge process which occurs here, which you will be learning in your MBBS first year. You will not require it now. You have a huge process. This calcium ions, as I said, we have for troponin, we have three sites, right? TNC, TNT, and TNI. TNC is a binding site for calcium. Whenever this calcium is released from the sarcoplasmic reticulum, it goes and binds to the TNC part of the troponin. And when this happens, the tropomyosin, which is covering the actin binding site on the myosin filament, is released and it is unmasked. Okay, unmasking happens. When this unmasking happens, what happens is this myosin head, this myosin filament head goes and binds to the actin filament. Whenever this happens, there is an ATP binding site, as I told you. This ATP comes and binds to the ATP binding site, and due to which ATP binds, due to which a power stroke is given. See this here. This is a cross bridge form. This thing is, now whenever this myosin head attaches to the actin filament, that is called as your cross bridge. Cross arm is different, cross bridge is different. Okay, this cross bridge is formed. Whenever this cross bridge is formed, ATP comes and binds to the ATP binding site on myosin head, and when this ATP gets bind, a power stroke is given. Okay, utilizing the ATP, power stroke is given, due to which these actin filaments move forward. Clear? This actin filaments move forward. Whenever these actin filaments move forwards, this ATP is now broken down into ADP and inorganic phosphate. These come out of the myosin head. When these come out of the myosin head again comes into resting state, and this is called as your breaking of your cross bridge. This is your breaking of cross bridge. Now what is happening here? Actin filaments, thin filaments are sliding over thick filament. That is why this is called as sliding filament theory. Whenever this happens, you have your Z lines here. Okay, Z line here. Whenever this happens, this actin filament is pulled. This actin filament is pulled. That pulls your Z lines or Kushner's membrane. Okay, these Z lines, whenever they are pulled, the whole muscle gets contracted. So that is why this sarcomere is called as your contraction unit. Now here you can see the diagrammatical representation of your contraction. This is your resting state. Usually you can see M line, you can see H zone, you can see A band, you can see I band, you can see Z line, etc., etc. In the partial contraction state, when these actin filaments are moving towards the M line, this is the condition. But when the complete contracted state, in the maximum contracted state, this H zone gets vanished. Okay, you have this, you have to remember this here in your mind, the events that occur in the completely contracted muscle. H zone gets vanished. H zone, no more H zone is found. A band is its of own length. Okay, A band is its of own length, I band is also of its own length. Only H zone gets disappeared. H zone gets disappeared. Okay, that is the thing. See, A band retains its length, I band get reduced. Sorry, I told it retains its length, I band get reduced. This is because in the maximum pulled state, the actin filaments from this side and the actin filaments from this side, which constitute your I band, they come closer and overlap each other, due to which this I band gets reduced and A band remains the same. A band is a length of myosin. Myosin is not moving, actin is moving, so therefore A band remains the same. H zone is a place where only myosin is present, no actin is present. That is why H zone is also vanished. Okay, whenever this muscle this contraction is completed, muscle wants to come to rest, then this calcium ions which are present, which are found attached to this troponin C molecule, are again pumped back into the sarcoplasmic reticulum, and the winding, again initial state of winding of this tropomyosin molecule to the actin, masking the actin binding site on the myosin head, occurs. Okay guys, that is your muscle contraction. Clear? If you have any doubts, please post it in the comment section below. I'll be replying to them, and hope you like the video. If you do so, please hit that like button and also subscribe to our channel NEET Atomics. This is Vamsi signing off from NEET Atomics. And also please join the Telegram channel, which I'll be posting the link in the description box below, where we will be sharing PDFs, PPTs, what we explained in the class. Have a great day further, guys. Thank you. Bye bye.